I know seems not to be enough. Mainly when the subject is about love. Lots of people around the doubt our course are trying to find a sense to the life is worth, looking for an answer for their solitude. Just wait a second, try to understand that we are little piece of huge universe where each of our actions can affect the life which surrounds us. Just 1 second, prove reveal the truth. That is a consensual feeling. Joining me and you, everyone would like to have a better world for us.
Before I introduce our keynote speaker, as I mentioned, there are 40 plus papers that have been presented in 7 sessions of this conference in 3 languages: English, Spanish, and of course, Korean. So I encourage you to please, if you haven't seen those, they will be online available to the registered participants. You can review them. With that, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Schwartz. Dr. Schwartz is part of the permanent staff of the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies. He's currently occupying the position of Director of Postgraduate and Master's Program in Legislative Power, where he also teaches since 2013 in the areas of public management, statistics, data sciences, and statistical programming. His academic background includes a degree in data processing by the Pontifical Catholic University of Brasilia, PCUB, in 1993, and in electrical engineering by the University of Brasilia, UNB, in 1995, a master's degree in computer science, a doctoral degree in electronic systems, engineering and automation, and a postdoctoral research in machine learning applied to the analysis of parliamentary discourse, interesting topic, parliamentary discourse, 2018. I wonder if there's any degree that he hasn't pursued. He also has a specialization in data science by Coursera, associated to Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health in the United States. He actually did as a healthcare researcher from December 2005 to December 2021 at the IAFF Institute in Rio de Janeiro, with experience in biophysical and biomechanical signal processing, data sciences, and software development in full stack MVC architecture. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Schwartz.
Thank you. 안녕하세요. 제 이름은 파비아노입니다. 반가워요. I hope my pronunciation is not so bad, and I'm sorry to say that's all my Korean. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Hamdi Hefazi, for the introduction. It's a great honor and a distinct privilege for me to be here today as a keynote speaker. My greetings to the audience. Thank you all for coming and for the interest about this topic. And my special greetings to the hosts of the event, Dr. Hamdi Hefazi and Dr. Jason Lee, co-presidents of this 2023 conference, and Dr. Christopher Druzgalski, the honorary founder of this conference, on whose behalf I would like to thank the entire team. Well, during my journey to South Korea with my wife and my son, we made a first stop in Dubai, where we stayed for 4 days. On my first day there, I felt like I was in a completely different world than mine. I had to learn the way people interact and live their day-to-day lives, where they buy bread, what they usually eat for breakfast, for lunch. I was faced with new landscapes, flavors, and smells. My mindset had to be updated and reprogrammed for that new reality I was experiencing. And little by little, that was becoming my own reality. And then, when I was almost used to that lifestyle, I came to Seoul City. And again, I had to learn new things and change my brain algorithms. And I'm telling you this story because I think this is the main magic of Metaverse. This fantastic technology that can allow us to easily experience new realities in an entirely new way of interaction and human connection. And how these new realities can affect our lives, can affect our health, and can be used in the healthcare field and biomedical engineering, medicine. Then I propose here is to discuss possible impacts or new possibilities in healthcare fields, given what has been promised about Metaverse. So, in this context, the natural question is, what can we expect from Metaverse in the healthcare field and beyond? Yes. Oh, okay. And beyond. As this is a kind of new world, I'd like to bring a different reflection and show an analogy of the metaverse with the holographic principle. The physics behind the holographic model seems to explain some hard to explain phenomena. Yes, thank you. But first, let me start with what we call the art of the possible and try to highlight some potential clinical use cases to give you a train of thought. I do not intend to make any advertisement here, but there's no way to talk about Metaverse without mentioning some products of Meta, Microsoft, Brain Labs, Accenture, Philips, and others. So, thinking in terms of augmented or mixed reality, the possibilities range from surgical procedures to the healthcare teaching and learning experiences. For example, a surgeon can easily have access to the patient's data inside an operating room, what can be helpful for taking the better decisions. Mixed reality makes possible to combine the information of MRI, CT, and other medical scans in a 3D model which can be precisely overlaid to the patient body. And these features give the patients a deeper understanding of their illness, of the expected results of the surgical procedures, and of the treatment methods. They also give the physicians the right conditions to accurately planning, discuss, and execute each step of a surgery with reliability, precision, and to ensure the patient's safety and the success of the procedure. Mixed reality also finds application in healthcare delivery systems, allowing all citizens to receive healthcare service wherever and whenever needed. And a significant gain is in the healthcare education. This interactive way students observe all the anatomical structures gives them a better understanding of the relationship among the body systems. For example, we can walk around a hologram and observe how the heart beats, in a healthy or unhealthy condition. How the brain processes information. How to deal with a bone fracture case. And how to interact with other people, even if we are physically separated. Just to illustrate, this video shows two scenes where mixed reality was used in the context of the metaverse. This one, where people in different places are interacting around the brain hologram, possibly during a class or a school presentation. The second scene, yes. The second scene shows a medical team geographically distant, sharing the same virtual environment to discuss surgical procedures. Let me put this here. Okay. Yes. Both scenes are examples of augmented reality inside metaverse. I know it looks like science fiction, but if you look at just 20 years ago, no one ever imagined that we could carry a phone or watch in our body that could count calories or detect the heart rhythms. And likewise, if this VR and mixed reality connectivity devices truly become an integral part of our everyday experience, they will certainly have a big potential to become a day-to-day tool in the healthcare field. I personally believe this will happen because there are giant companies investing in these technologies. So, let's now watch some of the virtual reality or just VR resource. The key word here is immersion, because VR allows patients to be immersed in incredible new worlds, which are built with dazzling attention to details. For example, in some mental health issues like Alzheimer's, the VR therapy immerses the patients in a calm and peaceful world. And this experience stimulates their senses and allows for them to interact with the virtual world, which gives them new possibilities like feel good about themselves, feel valued. In other words, VR can bring out emotions that sometimes can't come out in other ways. VR makes possible to put people in simulations of everyday situations and face their fears and learn the ways to deal with that emotions in an appropriate fashion. For example, VR can be used to distract and calm patients who find MRI scans challenging. Back into the operating room, neurosurgeons use VR to virtually enter the patient's skull and move it through brain tissues, neurons, and blood vessels in order to practice before the surgery. This practice is what makes surgery shorter and safer. Imagine a virtual world where you can grasp a virtual object and feel the sensation of that object pressing into our skin. That's the goal of Meta's sci-fi haptic gloves prototype. It can provide us with even more realistic experience inside an environment like Metaverse. The same is true for technologies that allow us to walk and run in every direction without leaving the place. And all these resources can make us feel as if we were inside a real world. And that's the main point of my approach here. I don't know if you ever had a VR experience. I have, And it's something absolutely real. The first time I've used a VR headset, my instinct was to walk freely inside that virtual environment. And so I was about to crash into a wall. Then a friend of mine said, "Hey, stop, watch out for the wall in front of you." And this kind of situation happens because the combination of all sorts of senses that we can experience in a VR environment can make our brain believe that everything you see, hear and touch is an expression of what's real. So in my opinion, this is the main potential of the metaverse. Because in addition to all this wealth of sensations we could receive, we also could meet other people by holoportation or as an avatar, as if we were in the same place. So, to continue in this reasoning, I ask for your permission to consider a not usual definition of reality, which is based on the holographic principle. According to some physicists, the universe itself is a kind of giant hologram. And according to some neuroscientists, the brain processes information employing some kind of internal hologram. So these ideas and others that I will show here are discussed in the book The Holographic Universe, written by Michael Talbot, which compiles the research of Carl Pribram, a neurophysiologist, and David Bohm, a physicist. So, first of all, let me quickly review what a hologram is. In simplified way, a hologram is the result of the interference between light waves recorded on a film. Interference is the crisscrossing pattern that occurs when two or more waves, such as waves of water, ripple through each other. Notice in this video the areas of motion and calm in the water. They form an interference pattern. And to produce a hologram in a conventional way, a single laser light is split into two separate beams. The first beam is bounced off the object to be photographed. Then the second beam, or the reference beam, is allowed to collide with the reflected light of the first. When this happens, they create an interference pattern, which is then recorded on a piece of film. And now, when the reference beam alone shines through the film, each pattern reconstructs its own object beam, and thus the whole object appears to be reconstructed. This next video is an example of the entire process of a hologram construction. You can see the beam split into two, then the object beam and the reference beam produce an interference pattern recorded on a piece of film, and the whole object is reconstructed. A curiosity about holograms is that in addition to create three-dimensional images, every piece of film contains all the information recorded in the whole film. It can reconstruct the entire image. This property of the whole in every part, in the concept of the interference pattern, made this neurophysiologist Carl Pribram conclude that the holographic model is perfect for explaining how the brain works. He observed that removing the visual cortex of lab rats did not affect the ability of rats to perform visual tasks, and concluded that it could be explained by the whole and never part nature of a hologram. Then Pribram suggests that if the brain was processing images and memories by employing some kind of internal hologram, then it's possible for every part of the brain to contain all the information necessary to recall a whole memory. The only question that remained was what wave-like phenomenon the brain might be using to create such internal holograms. A possible answer is when electrical messages reach the end of a neuron, it radiates outwards as does the ripple in a pond. And these expanding ripples of electricity, constantly crisscrossing one another, are also a wave-like phenomenon, which creates arrays of interference pattern. And this might be what gives the brain its holographic properties. And how our body cells receive this holographic information from the brain? One answer is through the electron, which is the bioelectrical network of human body, recently discussed as a revolutionary possibility for cancer treatment. Me and my research colleagues also have studies about this topic that were presented in previous editions of this conference. We have developed a microcurrent stimulation device which uses voltages and currents of similar magnitude to those generated endogenously during normal tissues healing. Our main conclusion is that injured tissues are electrically more negative than healthy tissues. A phenomenon which evidences the natural brain ability to do with holograms is visualization. Our brain cannot tell the difference between an actual physical event and the vivid visualization of that same event. Our reason for this is that when we experience something and when we visualize the same thing, we activate similar brain circuits. So visualizing desirable outcomes helps boost confidence, improve focus, practicing movement sequence, rewire our brains, and make epigenetics changes in our body. This exercise improves performance and helps us achieve our goals. A success story is that of Michael Phelps. In his book, he writes that he would visualize to prepare for a competition and to motivate himself. It's like to create a hologram in the future, like a metaverse of the future. And as the time goes on, that projection becomes reality. This hypothesis of holographic brain and visualization technique caught the attention of the group of research to which I belong, because these principles are also good ways of explaining oriented dialogue approach, which is a technique we presented in PAHCE 2011 in Rio de Janeiro. Our research was developed and tested with the patients of Alfredo Ferreira Filho Institute, originally a healthcare unit founded almost 30 years ago at the suburb of Rio de Janeiro and maintained by the resource of a group of professionals which range from cleaning staff to the several medical specialties to provide excellence in healthcare services for the local communities, voluntarily and free of charge. This model has served as a reference for the local government, which replicated it last year. Then we finished our activities. And why not say that this initiative of the local government is the result of 30 years of collective visualization and hard work, of course. Well, back into the oriented dialogue. It's basically a technique of self-knowledge, consciousness, and mental condition through a specific dialogue with the diseased organ and with our DNA. We believe that this exercise can increase our awareness about the disease or problem faced. And such information learned contributes to development of brain neuroplasticity and cell regeneration. Let me show you one of the cases we presented in PAHCE 2011. Here we have the case of a T4 staged PAHCE tumor. In addition to the conventional treatment, which included chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, the oriented dialogue was used with the patients in 2 weekly sessions, led by a physician, for 34 weeks. And the patient was instructed to repeat aloud a dialogue, like this one, where the patient verbalizes a command to activate neural networks. And after 34 weeks, the results showed that the affected lung was fully recovered, which is not expected for PAHCE tumor cases, even with the conventional treatment. This can be seen on X-ray and CT scans right after surgery and 34 weeks later, one lung was completely expanded. This and other results obtained in that occasion and in the last 12 years, and some of them also presented in conferences like this, made us think of improving the technique, the inclusion of new sensory stimuli. This led us to consider the holographic perspective in the use of virtual reality resources, mainly because we agree with the hypothesis that the brain is capable of processing even more sophisticated holograms. Using quantum principles, let me show you these ideas. A quantum hologram doesn't even need to see their subject and uses quantum entangled photons to encode information. Which means that when an agent acts on one photon, its partner is also affected, no matter how far apart they are. So, scientists from Fraunhofer Institute in Germany, they split one laser beam into 2 entangled beams of different frequencies. The first scanned a glass plate engraved with symbols, and the second was used to reconstruct the entire hologram. Based off the details the first beam scanned. A similar experience was made in the University of Glasgow in Scotland. So, bringing this concept to the brain, the coherence information required to build a hologram could be generated by a simple thought, for example. It's just enough to think in something, and a connection is immediately made, working as the object beam used to construct the hologram. Of course, depending on the nature of the thought, the projected hologram may or may not be good to the body matter. For example, it's well accepted that psychosomatic factors can cause disorders such as fatigue, insomnia, pain, hypertension, skin rashes, stomach ulcers, cancers, and others. Scientists believe that stress releases hormones and chemicals in the body that cause damage or dysfunctions. And this is reasonable since a stress condition usually comes from a chaotic lifestyle, such as childhood neglect, depression, alcoholism, loneliness, sexual abuse, unemployment, difficulty of expressing emotion, abortions, and others. If this kind of information resulting from this kind of sensations and habits can negatively affect our matter, then it's also reasonable that a correct information could bring benefits to our body and even repair damages or illness. The key point here is information. The physicist Rolf Landauer proposed in 1961 that information is physical. And another physicist called Melvin Vopson of the University of Portsmouth in 2019 proposed that information is equivalent to mass and energy, existing as a separate state of the matter. He postulated that the information is the fifth element or the fifth form of the matter. And this conjecture is known as mass energy information equivalence principle. And it says that every bit of information has a finite and quantifiable mass. So, in other words, Vopson says that our elementary particle stores information content about themselves, similarly to how we are encoded by our DNA. Let me show the research of Marion Diamond, a neuroanatomist at the University of California, who studied Einstein's brain. And she found out that 4 regions of Einstein's brain had more glial cells compared to a control group of brains. And this could be evidence of the mass resultant from the information Einstein was able to manage. And her research about brains showed that living in an enriched environment can change the anatomy of the brain. And she also concluded that there are at least 5 important factors for a healthy brain: diet, exercise, challenges, novelty, and love. So, let me put all these ideas together. When we have a life surrounded by good information, a life surrounded by good information like body consciousness, health diet, love, the interference patterns produce a holograms of pleasant experience. And the mass equivalent to this information integrates our body matter in a healthy way. On the other hand, a chaotic lifestyle produces disorderedness, like a cancer, for example. Just to illustrate, more than 8% of the cancer patients treated at the Alfredo Ferreira Filho Institute have had 1 or more abortions. This kind of phenomenon is on the agenda of the Brazilian Society of Cardiology. under the attention of the Department of Spirituality and Cardiovascular Medicine. For them, spirituality is not synonymous with religiosity, but with science, with the set of moral values, attitudes, and life choice. They defend the humanization of medicine and that the patients must be awareness of good living habits. We can consider this as a significant advance, since it comes from a so renowned institution. In a world where medicine tends toward diagnostic algorithms, robotic surgeries, and nanotechnologies, it's reasonable to think that the great doctors of the future are those who will change the patient's perceptions, to encourage them to be alive, to have a life. This has everything to do with oriented dialogue. Based on everything that was exposed. Nowadays, the patients who have been treated with oriented dialogue are instructed to repeat the dialogue while they watch a video that shows features about their disease and teaches them what is the health pattern of the affected organ or tissues. So this new approach has proven to be more efficient and stimulating, since it improves the patient's learning process. They watch these videos using a VR headset. The result has been encouraging, especially in case of depression, autism, sleep disturbances. Chemotherapy, it helps to alleviate the side effects, and mainly the anxiety, chronic pains, and others. In this conference, we presented the case of Parkinson's disease in the last session. So, going back the question of the beginning of this talk, what can we expect from Metaverse in the healthcare field and beyond? Well, it depends a little bit of imagination. It depends on our ability to think outside the box. But a good way to answer this question is to go inside Metaverse. So, excuse me, I heard that there is a door to Metaverse right beside the stage. So I will try to answer this question from the perspective of Metaverse. But I know that there is very hot, so I will take my suit here, okay? Just a minute. Hi, I'm now inside Metaverse. And what are the benefits of being immersed here, considering that my interest is in healthcare possibilities? Well, here I have a new reality, a new set of sensations. My senses can be bombarded by all sorts of visual, sound, and even touch information, if I wear special gloves, for example. I can interact with other people. Hello, he's my son, Diogo. Bye-bye. And all these stimuli produces interference patterns that the brain processes like a new hologram using Fourier mathematics. And how does work for the oriented dialogue technique? Imagine a patient with a heart dysfunction. Patients in general don't have much knowledge about their disease. So the first goal of oriented dialogue is to give the patient information about his problem, about what's needed for its recovery. It works like the object being used to build a hologram, where the subject is the image of a health organ, which is decoded in frequency by the retina. and the reference beam is equivalent to the song playing together with the dialogue repeated aloud. Then, an interference pattern forms a new hologram of the health organ in the brain, activating neurotransmitters that deliver new information to cells and DNA, reprogramming its functions and its structures to the health pattern. Based on this, we believe that holographic approach, combined with the new way of interaction and human connection inside metaverse, can be a powerful tool in the healthcare field, especially because this combination seems to be an effective way to change and save the information into our body systems. To finish, let me show you a last 1-minute video about holographic universe.
This new principle, this holographic principle. And what it said is that all the things that were falling inside a black hole were somehow captured in a preserved image at the horizon itself.
So if the information is not lost on the surface, the information is not lost inside because they are equivalent.
All the information about those objects, what they were like in their three-dimensional existence, was preserved or encoded on the surface of the black hole. And that's a little bit like a hologram.
Well, that suggests that maybe that idea may apply more broadly to the universe as a whole. Maybe the three-dimensional objects, us, everything in the world around us, maybe all of the information in these objects is carried, is smeared around a distant two-dimensional surface that surrounds us, and we're just in some sense a holographic projection of that distant data.
The holographic principle tells us something quite astonishing. It says that our ideas of volume, of the real world in a sense, might be a kind of illusion.
Click. Whoa, this travel to metaverse is very interesting. It looks like Star Trek. You should try it. It's good. But let me conclude, if I may, with a metaphoric conclusion. Yes. Maybe. Yes. The main thought-provoking idea about metaverse is that all this theoretical stuff seems to show us that we are exactly now living inside a metaverse, in a kind of computational simulation, maybe inside a black hole that could be seen as a big computer, which code is in the surface of the event horizon, and we are just programs or holographic projections of that information. And all we need is to keep our hardware, our body, and our software, our DNA code, working well. Is to live our lives producing good information, good deeds, with attention to our neighbor, always looking for our improvement as people, professionals, and human beings, in order to save good registries in our hard drives, our DNA, and to have our matter and our energy in balance until the end of our time in this existence, or in this universal metaverse. And then, where do we go after the end of this existence? I know that you already know everything I showed here. I was walking around this campus and I found this staircase. And there are perfect statements there. Be yourself, be honest, be empathetic, be enthusiastic, generous, patient, curious, creative, confident, respectful, be kind, cooperate with the others. So you have the formula. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Professor Schwartz, for an inspiring presentation. Did you notice Professor Schwartz lost his tie in the metaverse?
Yeah.
What happened to it?
It's here, yeah.
Are there any questions, comments that we can? Yes, Dr. Park. Please join me here to answer the question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for a wonderful, inspiring,
Thank you.
visionary presentation. We at SUNY Korea is setting up a data science program with computer science and applied mathematics. Could you just explain, maybe even advise to us how we could use that program and how this is related to all the work that you're presenting?
Yes. All these dialogues for every kind of disease, of course, they are under construction yet, yes? But we have more than 50 videos related to 50 kinds of disease ready for use. Of course, they are in Portuguese. But nowadays it's easy to have the translation, yes? Because Google does the hard work for us, yeah? But not only use what is ready, you can produce another one. The dialogues has two parts. Diogo have presented this morning. The first part is an explanation of the situation of the patient. So people who are used to technology, like computer scientists, thinks this is easy to do, to produce videos with information about the situation of the patient, to give him a consciousness about his situation. And then, now that I know what I had, now that I know my problem, what I can do to fix or to help the medicine help me. So we have used the therapeutic functions of the colors, the frequency of the colors. We are watching today in the morning your paper where you were modeling how to destroy a virus with mechanical intervention and maybe using acoustic sounds and whatever. Yeah? It's the same thing. The colors, the frequency of colors have therapeutic functions into our body. And then the second part of the dialogue are exactly how these frequencies can act on our body in order to fix or at least to help the medicine to do that work. Just to be clear, this is not a substitution of any procedure of medicine. This is complementary, only complementary. Medicine first. Then, what can we do for the medicine to help the medicine and ourselves? That's the point. So, but you don't need to be experts in computer science or statistics, nothing. We just need to want to do that. And the videos are very simple. Maybe after I can show you one of these videos, and maybe you will understand better what I'm saying. Hope I have answered your question. Thank you for your question. Very good.
Any other questions from anyone?
Okay.
Yes, there's a question there. Dr. Brown?
This was pretty amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But visualization's been used in sports and exercise, so that's nothing new. You visualize yourself, right?
Yes.
So they've shown like tennis players visualize themselves hitting the ball.
Mhm.
It's almost the same as they actually
Yes.
do. But what I'm curious, when you do healing, and it's been done with also in Oriental medicine with magnets and acupuncture, you divert the energy to that spot.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if somebody's done research, if you divert the energy to the healing spot, where does it come from? Because energy is limited, right? So you go and move from one area to the other. Do you understand?
Yeah.
From the physics perspective, I don't
yes.
know if you know. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. First of all, visualization is very used in the sports training, but it could be used for everything. I used visualization for this presentation. So far, so good. Yes, I visualized almost everything what is happening. Well, when you visualize these holograms, the energy, visualization, when you visualize, you're thinking in something. You have to study, you have to prepare something. You have to have information. Information and energy are equivalent. So every time you search for information or you produce some information to reach a goal, you have energy. Words have energy. And you can move the energy just with the words. Words have power. Words can start a war. And words can also stop a war. But to stop a war, you have to go back to steps. And that's amazing because we have natural talent to use words as weapons. But for us, it's difficult to use words for healing, to use the energy of the words for healing. We don't believe in it. But we are good in using words as weapons. And that's the main point here, the exercise of using words as energy. The words can move the energy. The words can put inside the energy the correct frequency you need to repair some illness. We are using words. We are using not only words, but all the stimuli, visual stimuli, songs. All these frequencies form an interference pattern. They form that hologram we could reach in the future. So, I mean, we needed to exercise more how to use this power we have to make good things. And we are capable to heal or to help the medicine heal our bodies. Help the medicine heal our bodies. This is the main point.
Thank you so much. In the interest of time, I'm sure that there may be other questions, but we have some time during the lunch break if you have specific questions to Dr. Schwartz.
Okay.
Very inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very inspiring presentation.
Everybody wants, everybody knows, everybody thinks of it's out of control. Everybody wants a better world.